Fantastic. Hey guys, this video was not supposed to happen at all. I'm actually in the process of busy making a Lord of the Rings video essay, and I just finished watching Dragon Ball Super Broly, and I was like, no, time to put a break on my current video because I have got to review this film. Guys, this movie was just so much flipping fun to watch, and it's surprisingly deeper than you'd expect from a Dragon Ball film, especially a Dragon Ball film that's all like based around Broly, who's just known as this character that likes to just beat people up. I mean, he before this film he was just a monster that liked to just go out and destroy, and his entire purpose as a character was to kill Kakarot, to kill Goku. And so this new portrayal of him is so flipping welcome. So as I said earlier, there's so much more in this film than you actually expect, and this film actually opens up back before Planet Vegeta was destroyed, and we see all of the old Saiyans and stuff like that, and we actually get to see King Vegeta, and we get to see Bardock and stuff like that. And it's always fun to see Planet Vegeta before it was destroyed. But we are just reminded that the Saiyans, they weren't nice people. There's always those fans that go, well, why don't they just bring Planet Vegeta back? You know, why don't they just, you know, wish the Saiyans back into existence and stuff like that? I'm talking about with the Dragon Balls. That probably doesn't make sense if you don't watch Dragon Ball Z. I just realized that now. But there's a reason they don't, and it's because the Saiyans are just jerks. They're a warrior race, and they're not a nice race. And you remember just how jerky they really are in this film. But you spend a lot of time on Planet Vegeta, and you're introduced to old concepts in a new way. And it's just so much fun because I wasn't expecting that from this film. I was honestly just expecting a massive beat 'em up with tons and tons of action, but there was a surprising amount of depth. And the depth really comes into this whole father-son dynamic between Broly and his father. And I don't want to go into spoiler territory at all, but their relationship in this film is so incredibly complicated because there's an element of love there, but also of like power and control and stuff like that. And as a viewer, it's really intriguing to see where this relationship is going to go and how it's going to play out. And it's a really emotional film actually, and I wasn't expecting that from Dragon Ball at all. As I said earlier, especially with a character called Broly, because as we know, Broly just fights and kills and destroys. He even calls himself Satan at one point. He calls himself the devil. And this is in previous films, not on this one. So I honestly wasn't expecting such a sympathetic character, and the truth is, in this film, Broly's a sympathetic character. You actually, at times, I was kind of rooting for him. I was like, this is a good guy. You don't want him to lose because you understand where he's coming from. But that's all I'm going to say about the story, and I try to say as little as possible because even though this is just an action film, there is a decent amount of story there that I enjoyed watching, not knowing what was going to happen. So I don't want to ruin that for you guys either. But one thing I thoroughly enjoyed about this movie was the animation. Now just recently, I made a movie review on the new Spider-Man film, Enter the Spider-Verse, and I said that no film would ever compete with it in terms of its animation. And I can't really compete Dragon Ball and Spider-Man because they are completely different animation styles, completely different art styles. But I take my words back when I say it's going to be very difficult for another film to match Spider-Man in terms of how beautifully it was animated. Because this film is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, there's this one scene in the fight where Broly just flipping sends down a ki blast. And I think it's the first time I ever was like, yo, that ball of energy that can cause so much destruction really looks beautiful. And it's weird because like the fight scene in action, as intense as it is, it's so fluid and it's so beautiful. And honestly, you have to watch it to understand what I'm talking about because my words just can't do it justice. So talking about the animation and the fighting scenes and stuff like that, not only were they so beautiful, but the choreography was absolutely insane. I mean, we see Goku, Vegeta, Broly pull out some moves we've never even seen in the Dragon Ball universe before. And it's amazing how even after all these years, they're still able to pull new things out the rabbit hat. You know what I mean? We're still seeing new moves, we're seeing new skills and stuff like that, which is just so much fun because it's absolutely awesome to see this franchise that has been around forever coming up with new fresh ideas, and I'm loving it. So in terms of characters, I mean, we've got Goku and Vegeta who are always just so much fun together, and they actually bring such an incredible sense of comedy just in the way they interact with each other and they bicker and stuff like that. And it's a type of relationship you don't actually see often in films, because as much as they are competing against each other, and there's definitely that feeling of rivalry when it comes to Vegeta looking at Goku, they're still friends from my understanding, and it's awesome to see them just interacting once again. It's been quite a while since Super ended, so I need my Dragon Ball fix wherever I can get it, and this is a great place to get it. One thing that I was really impressed with, and I really wasn't expecting it in any way, shape or form, was the soundtrack. Now, I've enjoyed previous intro theme songs and stuff like that to the Dragon Ball franchise, but I've never remembered a scene because of how powerful its score or soundtrack was. And that changed today, because there's a flashback where we see Planet Vegeta get destroyed. And I've seen Planet Vegeta get destroyed countless times, I mean any Dragon Ball fan has. But the score they use really resonated with me, and for the first time ever, I was honestly just awestruck, and I was honestly emotionally moved at the destruction of Vegeta, because it was so full of sorrow and sadness. And the thing is, I knew it was coming, but I was still hoping there was a way that the Saiyans would survive. And I've never had that feeling before watching Dragon Ball. So they did something new in terms of a repeated idea that I've never seen before, and kudos to them because they did it absolutely brilliantly. So I know I've been praising this movie a lot. I must be making it seem like it's absolutely perfect, that there's absolutely no flaws, but that is most definitely not the case. After all, this is still a Dragon Ball film, and so it actually has many of the same flaws that any Dragon Ball series or movie has. And the biggest one for me was the power scaling. We see characters that shouldn't be able to do specific tasks or skills or obtain specific skills or powers doing it, and it annoyed me because you're like, whoa, that character can't do that, and then they do it, and it's just, it kind of ruins continuity for me a little bit. Another one that isn't really explained is specific things happen and characters do specific things that aren't really explained, and I don't want to tell you what they are because that is a part of the story. This will be a spoiler, I do not want to tell that for you, but specific characters gain specific skills that up till this point they haven't been able to possess. And so I was, again, it messed with continuity a little bit for me, so I didn't enjoy that. So guys, in conclusion, I'm going to have to rate this film probably 80% on the dot. In terms of action, it's got all the action you could ever want. It's beautifully animated, an amazing soundtrack, a storyline that is there to get the job done. But at the end of the day, it's just three guys fighting. And I don't think I can give it fighting more than 80%, no matter how well it's actually done. But guys, thank you so much. That was my review on Dragon Ball Super Broly, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video.